Put Me in Coaching family. I hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend and is ready for an incredible start to the new week. We're moving into the last week of February, so we're almost 2 months down for 2026. And I want us to reflect on where we're at with our goals, because obviously we're more than halfway through with the first quarter of 2026 and really moving into where we should be evaluating, hey, what's gone right this year so far and what do I need to change? And so tonight I want to talk about, I just recently read a book called The Four Agreements, and it's by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I've read this book a few times in the past. It's a very quick read, so highly recommend it if you haven't read it before, because I think it really just kind of changes your perspective on the idea that maybe you're not quite where you want to be, or maybe you haven't been as diligent as you would like to be towards your goals. And so I think it's a great read to kind of put that into perspective. So tonight I want to talk about the four agreements as well as the three pillars. We always talk about the pillars being what we eat, what we think, and what we do. And the four agreements ties into that remarkably well, because it really allows for inner reflection of what are the things that you're telling yourself. And there's a concept in there called, I may say this incorrectly, but I believe it's called the mitote, which basically means like the smoky mirrors. And so we can't necessarily see the full reflection of where we want to be because we continue to self-sabotage. And I know I don't speak for myself. I'm not speaking only for myself when I say that those negative words can really creep in. And then what does that lead to? The negative action and then the negative eating. And it's that full cycle. And so I want to talk about and just touch on what the four agreements are. And I encourage you, like I said, to dive a little bit deeper and read that book. It's a very, very quick read. The audiobook, I believe, is only about 2 hours in length. So you could easily listen to that over the course of a couple of days. But the first agreement says, be impeccable with your word. And I love this concept because this is the what we think. Because not only is it putting out into the world what we want to receive back as far as what we're saying, but it's also being kind to yourself. And that is a very hard thing to do when maybe you haven't been as diligent as you would like to have been towards your goals this year so far. But guess what? If you're not impeccable with your word, then that allows you to continue to punish yourself for something that's already happened. And as I was reading this, it really kind of struck me because it said, it was very clear in that, okay, once you've addressed it one time, you don't need to bring it up again. You don't need to continue to punish yourself for something that didn't happen. Reevaluate, set a new timeline, and move forward. And so being impeccable with your word really means be kind to yourself first and foremost. Put kindness out into the world, but then acknowledge, hey, this didn't go the way I wanted it to. Let me reevaluate because I know I can do it. And let me adjust and create a new timeline. And I apologize that I'm yawning. I've got I think the pressure's changing. I know the weather's crazy. I think the pressure's changing, and so my ears are just, I don't know. But anyway, so I apologize for yawning. But so be impeccable with your word. That's the first one. The next one is don't take things personally. And that one is very hard to do sometimes. I recognize that. And so it's really important that you just work on yourself. And then in being impeccable with your word, you're not too hard on yourself if you do take something personally. But remember, we talked in length about we can't control what happens, but we can control how we respond. And that's what not taking things personally truly means. That's a what you do as well as a what you think. Okay, we can control how we respond to what's happening around us, but we can't control what actually happens. We can only control how we respond. And so by not taking things personally, it allows you to stay focused on what you need to be focused on, which is the what you eat, what you think, and what you do. Because at the end of the day, when we take something personally and it derails us from whatever it is we're working on, guess who's losing in the end? We are, right? Whatever happened that we took personally, whoever or whatever made that happen really is not affected. It's us that's affected. And at the end of the day, that derails us from our progress. And we don't want that, right? So don't take things personally. The second thing, or the third agreement is don't make assumptions. And I like this one because we're so quick to just assume things about ourselves or assume things about other people that we either don't ask for help or we assume something is going to go poorly and that derails the what we think. We get into this headspace instead of just communicating and asking, we start assuming and we're assuming the worst. And then that puts us into a what we think that is not healthy for anybody. And we start to spiral. And the next thing we know, the what we eat is all out of whack, the what we do is all out of whack, and definitely the what we think is all out of whack. So you see how not making assumptions and rather just ask questions or investigate, right? Look into what it is that we're making assumptions on and figure out what's going on so that you can address it and then have whatever's going to happen and then not take it personally. And then you can be impeccable with your word and be positive about it, or at least matter of fact about it, and solve it and move forward. You see how they all tie in together? And I love that because I'm absolutely guilty of taking things personally or making assumptions when all I really had to do was ask a question and it wouldn't have been so bad. Okay. And so that's agreement number 3. And then the fourth one is always do your best. And at the end of the day, I really love this one. And I ask this in one of the other projects that I'm working on a lot. If your team did what you did today, would you be happy with the outcome? And whether you have a team or not, it doesn't matter. But you ask yourself, if someone that was on my team did what I did today, would I have gotten the results I desired? And that's where we say, always do your best. And then when we commit to always doing our best, it makes it so much easier to be impeccable with our word. Because if we know that we're doing our best, we're not going to be as hard on ourselves, even when we don't achieve the goal within the timeline, because you did everything you possibly could to get there. And this is something that I think gets overlooked a lot because we can control our effort. We can't control the outcome. I'm going to say that again. We can control our efforts, but we can't control the outcome. And so at the end of the day, if you can look back and say, I did my best today, I was impeccable with my word, I didn't take things personally, and I didn't make assumptions to the best of your ability. Now, here's the beauty of it. Let's say you find yourself not being quite impeccable with your word, or taking something personally, or making an assumption. Part of always doing your best means recognizing that and course correcting as soon as you recognize it. And this is how we course correct the what we eat, what we think, and what we do. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to be perfect with everything. And that's okay. No one is perfect. We are all human. But the goal is to get just a little bit better. That's Atomic Habits. You see how all of these books kind of tie into each other? But when we get a little bit better every day, we can rest assured that the what we eat, what we think, and what we do is going to move us toward our goals, because we're applying that 7-step signature system to the pillars. And when those pillars are being addressed and we're applying the 4 agreements to those pillars, we have no choice but to succeed. Because at the end of the day, yes, you may not hit it at the specific date that you're targeting, but that's just a target. It doesn't mean it's a definite, and that if you don't hit it by that target date that you can never achieve it. So when you really think about it, think about the opt-in. And so I want you to opt into those agreements and understand that, again, be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. And always do your best. When you opt in to following those agreements, it makes it so much easier to dial in the what we eat, what we think, and what we do. And so I encourage you to read that book and really take it in. You may want to read. So the way I did it, I read it, but I also listened to it while I was reading it. And then I listened to it again. And that really helped it sink in, because they give a lot of examples, and it allows the smoke around those mirrors to clear up so that you can see yourself clearly, because you've committed to these 4 agreements. And it's going to lead to less stress in your life, because you won't be taking things personally and you won't be making assumptions. All right. So that is my challenge to you between now and next week. I know that's kind of a short timeline, but you can get it on Audible. You can get it on YouTube. I don't know. But at least go and research the 4 agreements. But I challenge you to listen to it. Like I said, it's about a 2-hour audiobook, and very, very powerful, because it really just makes you stop and think and adjust your expectations. All right. So that is my challenge to you between now and next week. And I want you to start applying those 4 agreements to your day to day. And I want you to see how your life starts to really dial in on the what you eat, what you think, and what you do. All right. As always, I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I will see you back here next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And until then, I will see you in the comments. I will see you on text message. And if you are needing to get back into a coaching program, please reach out so that we can make sure that you are maximizing your what you eat, what you think, and what you do. Grateful for you all. I'm wishing you all the most success for this week, and I will see you back here next Sunday.